Hi Ray, how you doing?
I'm doing fine. Good morning.
Amazing. Good morning, man. Yeah, so we're doing the sort of second version of the hirobe talks today. Ray, just introduce yourself. Tell us sort of who you are, where you come from, what you're doing at the moment.
Well, I'm based in Amsterdam. My name is Ray Bogman. Been now with Adobe a little bit over 5 years. Responsible as head of commerce for customer engineering. So fancy word for support day to day. Been actually with the software Magento as of 2008 as an entrepreneur back in the day before I joined Magento and then later became Adobe. So 15 years ongoing already within the Magento e-commerce space, and prior to that, as an entrepreneur, many different open source software systems like Mambo, Joomla, Drupal, Typo3, just name them. I think since the early days of the millennium. So been around the block, I'd say, for a while already.
Amazing. I mean, I know most people within the Magento world will probably know you already. Within the Adobe community, I know you've got a really good reputation there. So that introduction was most people are aware of you already. I mean, so yeah, I mean, a question that I get asked a lot of the time by clients, by merchants. What is the key difference between Adobe Commerce and Magento, and how can it benefit the customers?
I think that's a really important question. And actually, if we drill back, maybe throughout history, all started, of course, with the whole Magento piece that was available open source. And actually, I think 2 years in, an enterprise version got created that picked up. Even a professional version got created with some, I would say, smaller sets of tools. But actually, it was Magento with additional functionality on top of that, which more or less drifted into the early parts of the Magento 2 part. So there was a lot of debate on, what's the difference between the Magento part and the Magento Enterprise back in the day. And I know several blogs or companies that wrote really long summaries on what the difference is and how you could use these different components, even using modules from the marketplace or third-party solutions. So it was always a battle between, what's Magento or what's Magento Enterprise and how does this really benefit. So actually, back in the day, maybe the benefits not to everybody was limited. True. I mean, the enterprise part had the support element included. At some point, we had a offering called the cloud, which has been there now for a while already. But there wasn't a really big difference. That's why there was a big debate always within the community, despite, of course, the whole discussion on PCI compliancy, security, managed services, more or less. But over the years, we've seen definitely now with Adobe in the picture that the solution has gone more enterprise focused. And I know there's a lot of debate with it as well, but looking right now on Adobe Commerce or Adobe Commerce Cloud, the solution is not comparable to any solution anymore, I would say, back in the day. The main focus within Adobe now is making sure that we have full reach on the omnichannel component with multiple services, not only included in the source anymore, but the SaaS component around it, or microservices, or composable commerce, sometimes how we use these phrases. That's really the big difference, I would say, between the old Magento piece, which is still there, which is available for everybody. And actually, there's still some small components that will be supported by the Adobe team, like the security patches and the upgrade functionality, but also payment services, channel manager. So we still have, I would say, support on that pack. But if we're looking at the other end on the whole commerce piece, well, that experience has, I would say, in a positive way, exploded. The amount of services that we are currently offering and are continue to be offering within, I would say, even this year would be amazing. I mean, you mentioned already in the green room that, Imagine is just around the corner, happening 2 weeks from now, third week of March. So a lot of great new things will be launched. But I mean, just looking at some of those functionalities that maybe some of them are available or haven't heard of, but let me address some of them. I mean, API mesh. The app builder functionality, intelligent merchandiser. These are really new components that really set the bar from a commerce perspective to the next level. And actually, these are some of the things that a lot of customers within the enterprise space have been waiting for several years. And now finally we have these solutions up and running, available, ready to plug in. And actually with these, I would say, services, it doesn't take them too much time actually to set it up. I mean, back in the day, of course, installing the module, doing all the testing, that has more or less changed, where now we use these APIs. Let me give an example on the API mesh. I mean, it's a serverless component that has the ability to connect multiple API connections, either REST, GraphQL, or even SOAP, and create one single endpoint, a GraphQL connection back to the front end, for example. So it's much easier to create these components instead of, well, again, installing a module, developing a module. So the time to market is much easier, and it's included within the license for all cloud customers anyway. So it really helps to level that bar and I would say get going. So the difference, again, to summarize between, well, the Magento open source piece and the Adobe Commerce piece is that open source will still be available for everybody. Please continue using that. But if you see growth within your business needs, or you want to expand on multiple features, well, the whole commerce piece exceeds the limits and will be continuing to be focused on from our end.
Amazing. Yeah, I think that's, a really sort of couple of important points there. I mean, as we said in the green room, I've just filled up a client of mine won a large scale Adobe Commerce Magento project in the sort of DACH region, and yeah, they're sort of excited as to what Magento is doing for them and where it's going this year. So I think there's a really good momentum with it at the moment. Really looking forward to some of the talks at Vegas as well. I know there's a lot of the Meet Magento events as well this year, which I'm hoping to get to, because I think, as you mentioned, it has gained this incredible momentum in the past sort of, I'd say, 6 months, really with the features that have been added. And I know there's a real buzz about, composable headless features as well. They seem to be the buzzwords of 2022. So big things in the Magento pipeline for that, hopefully.
True. Maybe to add one point, actually, and this is something where my team actually works on a regular basis and also works with the merchants back to, the product team, is that if there's anything that we see from a from a customer engineering standpoint that needs support, then that bridge between the merchant and, of course, product, it's pretty easy to make. And maybe give an example, and this is maybe an interesting call on how we like to take support actually to the next level. Well, of course, a lot of enterprise customers out there, they sometimes have these, I would say, challenges in regards to scalability, ability to really ramp up some of the components, let's say on the database level. And actually earlier this week, we had a really interesting call where we more or less reverse engineered all the components that are currently within the monolith and how that would be applicable going into the future to still have these brands scalable. And actually some interesting points came out, and having that bridge between the customer engineering, but also product engineering now gets into a component that creates either new Jira tickets, prioritize them, and even build solutions as we go, making sure that we're supporting these merchants in the best way possible.
Amazing. So, I mean, I want to be honest, that's something I actually didn't know, despite working with sort of Adobe Commerce for all this time. So your approach is very much tailored to the customer need, really. You're very much on hand to...
Well, I mean, some of it sounds tailored, but actually looking at, I would say, a big portion of our larger customers. And again, this is something that I'm currently leading. If we have, let's say, 5 of those larger customers, and we really reverse engineer requirements gathering and nail down on what kind of components would really help them to succeed. Actually, if you fix those 5 issues, it automatically drips down to all other customers. And this really helps them at some point in time, if they start scaling, to have solutions ready to fly instead of requesting those kind of features. So more or less right now, getting into the nitty-gritty detail on how can we service these larger customers through Black Friday, Cyber Monday, so they don't have any issues moving forward.
Amazing. No, that's really good to hear, man. I mean, you've touched on a couple of already. I mean, are there any other sort of big features in 2023 that are coming? Any new features or upgrades that customers might not be aware of as of yet?
Well, an interesting one. Actually, there are three really nice features that really sets, I would say, the level on what in the Adobe Commerce product and definitely on cloud is making difference between all other solutions. Is we finally got automatic scaling, which means that within a split architecture, and let me define what a split architecture is that we have a dedicated front end and a dedicated layer for databases. Well, actually, that front end component has a minimal threshold on the amount of front end that it needs, and depending on the traffic that's incoming, that can automatically scale horizontally. Not saying to an unlimited phase, but enough, I would say, that really helps on that momentum. So there's no additional needs anymore. True, there will be a minimum threshold. Let's say, there would be 6 front-end nodes, but that a horizontal scalability can even get up to 12, 24, 48 if needed, depending on the business needs. So that's one thing that our enterprise customers are definitely interested in. And the other one, and I'm really happy with that, is the blue-green deployment. So what it is, more or less, is that we have a production environment, we have pre-production that's ready to go, and now just with a more or less switch of a button, it's possible to have that pre-production environment, which is already ready to go live, to only switch, I would say, the bar. And this way, this pre-production environment becomes the new production environment, and the old one can sit there. I mean, let's say you would like to roll back, it's still available. So the minimum deployment time actually gets into 0. Which really helps these larger merchants to be supported when rolling out new feature, new functionality without any maintenance window. So that's a really good one. And the one that I'm most proud about, actually, and it's been there already for a while, but actually it's maybe the feature that is underestimated, I would say, maybe in that phase, is the SWOT, so the system-wide analysis tool. So that's more or less what's happening underneath the hood of your environment. And actually, it's working on-prem as well. So somebody needs to install just a simple module on their production environment, or even I would say a pre-production environment. But once you have this module installed, the data is available through the backend of your Adobe Commerce environment through reports. And actually that will give you a SaaS dashboard telling you what kind of functionalities are you missing, what kind of priorities you need to take in regards to performance optimization, what patches have been missing. So it's more or less analyzing your Adobe Commerce piece on a day-to-day basis. And actually, since this is a SaaS solution, new functionality can be added quickly from our end to the SaaS solution. So let me give an example. If we see any security issue or performance issue on a specific version, while reading the log files or the version numbers, we are able to proactively give a recommendation what would help your environment to lower down, I would say, any tickets or performance degradation whatsoever. So this functionality really helps to analyze more or less the DNA of your environment and proactively give tailored messages back to what you need to do to get into a better health score. I mean, we all know probably the Web Vitals, it's been around now for a while. And actually this, I would say, Adobe Web Vitals is a health score that determines on how healthy your environment actually is from a database perspective and from a code perspective. So following these guidelines will definitely help you to lower down any tickets that gets into our system, and helps you more or less to have a really stable, optimized version running that's everlasting.
Amazing. No, thank you for that. I think, some really interesting points you touched on there. I mean, I've actually spoken about SWOT previously and how it can actually enhance the customer experience. I spoke with another industry professional, Barnett, who again said very similar things in terms of how effective that can be. So something I've always wondered, which I'm quite keen to ask yourself as well. How can the customer make the most of Adobe Commerce? What advice would you give to the customer?
Oh, this is a really good question. I think we can talk about this for hours. Actually, and this sounds a little bit off topic, but it's still related to Adobe Commerce in general. It's first of all having most qualified members on the team that are familiar with commerce. And why I'm saying this, with all respect, I've seen many teams out there, but some of them, they are lacking, let's say, just basic knowledge components, or they're not certified. So the more qualified engineers, team members you have on your team, and I would always say, is this your A team or your B team? So let's assume that you're looking for creating an A team. Make sure that your team is either certified on multiple disciplines, but also have a track record that really stands out. Because actually, once you have a good team in place, then it's really, I would say, not straightforward, of course. I mean, true, Adobe Commerce has some specifications, some requirements that you need to be aware of, but at least it will help you on a day-to-day basis to define, okay, this is what we are looking for. This is how we want to run and operate on a day-to-day basis. Because let's face it, there are two components. One is building, the project, and then it's running the project. And building sometimes is been managed by a partner, but run and operate, it's more like a hybrid. The partners sometimes do the technical maintenance, but the day-to-day operation is sometimes managed within the merchant's team. The more they are working together based on the knowledge they have, the better they can operate, and decreases more or less support issues or any questions that are not fully aware of. And actually, what I'm seeing on a day-to-day basis is that the lack of knowledge is currently the most important component that helps them to get to the next level.
That's actually a really, I suppose, incredible point, especially, from my perspective as well. So something that I get, obviously I network with, Adobe Commerce candidates globally. I work with guys who've been architects, developers for many, many years. And because of that, they actually haven't been certified. And then I'll work with clients who have a requirement that they will only consider interviewing people who are certified. So something that I am trying to say to these incredibly great guys is to actually become certified, because there's actually so many benefits to doing that, becoming, it's up-to-date knowledge. And from a client perspective, investing in the best talent, the best professionals, and really using that to ultimately get the most from Adobe Commerce. I think that's, such an incredible point, really, that translates across the entire recruitment sphere.
Well, actually, I mean, talking about the technical component, it's pretty clear, of course, getting a certification, having a track record. But sometimes what's been missing, and I think that's why it's a good topic to see, what your experience in that region is that developers, it's clear, but the product owner or the scrum master or the merchant or whoever we call that, actually, over the last several years, I've seen product owners become more or less responsible at some point for the entire organization. And the question that I've seen now several times over the last several years is that product owner, and again, I'm speaking with all respect to who is managing that, actually the person that gets them to the next phase. And what I'm seeing and what I'm hearing right now is that some of them, they grew with the company, but actually sometimes you need to have a different skill set. Maybe a CIO or CTO or whatever, fancy name. Not saying the fancy name is important, but having somebody who really can scale an organization to that next phase. And what I'm seeing right now is that there's a lot of product owners out there. And again, with all respect, is that they're lacking the skill set on transforming those larger growing organizations into actually the next phase. So it's more or less the organization that gets to a standstill, instead of the technology, because that keeps evolving. I mean, it's not the technology. Sometimes it's more the organization that needs to be, well, a little shoved, more or less, to get to the next level.
Amazing, yeah, because I know there's so many certificates out there that people that in those roles can get. You know, there's the business practitioner, solution specialist. There's all those other non-development related certificates which can help, as you say, elevate businesses. And really, I suppose, from a career perspective, if you've got those for your own professional development as well, when I get resumes with those certificates on there, I'm sort of, in dreamland, really. Like, oh, there are so many other opportunities that this professional can now go into to help elevate businesses. So yeah, really important point there. Thank you for that. I mean, I suppose as a final question, you're obviously an e-commerce expert with years of experience. Something I always like to ask people in this industry, I suppose more from my nerdiness really, what are 3 hot topics in the e-commerce world that you can see right now? I know that's quite a broad question, but for yourself and your experience, what are the 3 sort of hot e-com topics of 2023?
Well, not only maybe this year, but also the years to come. I mean, looking right now, and again, not touching base on composable as a marketing term, but more or less from a broader perspective, what does it really offer and how does it benefit your organization? I mean, I touched base a little bit already on the app builder and the API mesh component. If we look at, and let me get a couple of steps back. Back in the day, we had the monolith using all the functionality, stacking it on top, etc. Now we are getting, having single components focusing on that specific elements. If we're looking at, again, the app builder, the API mesh, or even the CDP, so those are elements that will actually make a difference. Instead of having yet another model that's customized, now we can use best-in-class solution, SaaS solutions that are available, and more or less with the use of the API can connect to our, I would say, orchestrational piece in a much more efficient way, which not only reduces TCO, but also time to market. So again, if I'm coming back to what are the hot topics, it's efficiency in general. Using components that can scale quickly, that have realistic time to market, and are best in class. Because this way, we not only all benefit from it instead of creating all customizations. I mean, true, over the last several years, we've done a lot of customizations, which sometimes took a lot of additional maintenance to support that on a daily basis. So keep it simple and use best-in-class solutions that help you scale your business moving forward. And this way, adoption and efficiency would be definitely a really good thing from a topic perspective.
Amazing. Yeah, I think again a really important point. Something I'm getting a lot of is that efficiency and how things can work. And I know that Hoover, spelled Hiver, is one of the things as well that's I think getting a lot of traction.
It is,
and helping, I suppose, businesses really simplify the process of implementing Adobe Commerce as well. Knocking out a lot of technical sides and reducing that sort of time to get things up and running, which that's something that I'm hearing from the industry is one of the big things of 2023. I don't know your...
Well, I mean, it all depends, of course, on the business requirements. I mean, not saying that every solution is a golden ticket to success, but always look at your requirements. What is your business DNA? Where do you want to go? And based on that, use the correct set of tools. Because actually that has the best fundamentals moving forward instead of just using a solution for a solution. Always look at the business requirements now, 2 years, 5 years down the road. What would I need to grow? And based on that, we'll build your strategy.
Amazing. Thank you. Yeah, thank you again so much for that. I mean, if there's anything else you want to maybe ask me or put in from your side, but I mean, for me, that was incredible. Really enjoyed your insight in that and your sort of expertise and knowledge of not just where Adobe Commerce has been and how it's successful, because it's been a very successful platform, but its plans for the future. I think hearing it from someone, on the inside is so insightful for me, and a really positive end to my Friday.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Amazing. Thank you so much for the time, and hopefully catch you at a conference as well.
Likewise, looking forward to that. Have a great day.
You too, Ray. Take care. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.